he understands he's going to prison. That's what's going to happen. It's what has to happen. But he does want to try to do something with this. And as became clear, and it's clear that PSI, religion has been a big part of his life, and his children's lives, and his family's life. He didn't ask the Eisenhower and Marti family for forgiveness because he knows he can't forgive himself. And he knows there'll be other things that he'll have to answer for in the future. I wanted the court to be aware of some of the factors that led to this. Not because they excuse in any way Mr. Gomez's behavior, nor does he want the court to think excuses his behavior. But to ignore those factors in doing this, two establishments that grossly overserved an intoxicated person, violating the law, violating their commitment to their patrons and to the citizens of Jefferson County, that has to be considered. The ongoing, never-ending, incredibly confusing signage construction that doesn't seem to make any progress only continues to put people, those are things that could cause not simply an intoxicated person, but any of us to end up in that situation going the wrong way. To ignore those factors excuses, endorses, and will not change anything about those things that are impacting the community. I'm only asking this court to look at everything, balance all the factors, look at the, obviously consider the loss and the devastation, but consider the things that contributed to it, my client's remorse, his acceptance of responsibility, and myself and my client, Your Honor, we trust that this court is going to impose a sentence that's fair and just for the parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, you heard how these crimes have ripped two young families apart, ripped a community apart. And yes, as devastated Mr. Gomez's family as well. But they get to see him. They get to visit him. And at some point, he may be released. I'll submit to the court the physical evidence in this case would have been horrendous. And I'm glad we did not have to have the family sit through that. But the magnitude of this crimes, and the loss they caused, I think calls for the maximum sentence allowable under law, Your Honor. Each case is punishable by 2 to 20 years. Under the provisions of Penal Code Section 303B1A, the court can run those consecutively, stacked on top of each other. That is what I'm asking the court to do. 2 maximum sentences with deadly weapon findings stacked on top of each other, along with a maximum sentence in his third case, the felony DWI, which doesn't really affect anything at the end of the day. I understand there's times for mercy, there's times for compassion, Your Honor, but I think undeserved mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the victims, and they've been through everyone's worst nightmare. 20 plus 20 is 40, and that's really not enough, but that is the maximum allowed under law, and that's what I'm asking you to do on behalf of the Marty family, the Eisenhower family, Christopher Staggs, Oscar Carr, and their entire faith community. The one reason all these people, including the Gomez family, are here in this courtroom today is because of what he did, what he chose to do. And it is a tragedy up and down. And so I'm asking you to protect the citizens of Jefferson County from any chance that this could ever happen again from Mr. Gomez. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I have a question, Mr. Nichols, with regard to deadly weapon finding, I'm looking at the indictment. And it doesn't read that there's a deadly weapon.
Right, I don't believe it does, Your Honor.
Okay. And it's not something I looked into. Is that something I can still find if the indictment doesn't say it?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Do y'all know? If it's not, if it's not in the indictment?
The court would have to find, it is permissible without a request, without it being included in the indictment. However, the court would have to point to specific evidence that it was used or intended to be used as a deadly weapon.
Okay.
And I would argue to the court that
This case is a powerful reminder that one decision can change countless lives forever. A night that began with a choice to drive ended in unimaginable loss, leaving multiple families to live with the consequences. The courtroom has reached its verdict, but for everyone affected, the impact will last far beyond today's sentence. If this case made you think, share your perspective respectfully in the comments. And if you want more in-depth courtroom breakdowns and true crime A,
Disagree with the information that is provided in the pre-sentence report that everyone has agreed that I review, that I could use that as far as, since I've taken judicial notice of that, the letters and everything else, that would be, would you have an objection for me, of me using that if I were in fact to make a finding of a deadly weapon?
Your Honor, I think the court can consider all evidence before the
Okay.
court, and if there is evidence that the court can point to that says this supports the finding of deadly weapon, obviously we can't contest.
Okay. First, I really do want to thank everybody for being here. We don't have full courtrooms like this. These, just as both of the attorneys said, these are some of the most difficult cases that any judge has to deal with for many reasons, obviously. Mr. Gomez, had you been in, well, I'm not sure that it would matter, but had you been in here and this was your first DWI, there might be some sense of what your attorney was asking for from me, which is true. I mean, I have to detach myself from the emotional part, which is, it's impossible, but it's required, and I do the best I can